The phone rang at 3 in the morning. I knew who it was before I even answered. My hands were shaking as I picked it up, and when I heard a voice on the other end, crying, begging, saying the words I never thought I'd hear, I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. "Please," she said, "please come back. I need you. I was wrong." It had been 8 months since she told me to leave. 8 months since she said I was no longer welcome in her home. 8 months since my own son stood there and said nothing while his wife threw me out. And now, here she was, calling me in the middle of the night. Broken, desperate, alone. I should have felt happy. I should have felt justified. But all I felt was sadness, because I knew what had happened. I knew why she was calling, and I knew that some lessons in life come too late to fix what's already been broken. My name is Margaret. I'm 72 years old, and this is the story of how pride, silence, and time taught my daughter-in-law a lesson she'll never forget. Let me take you back to the beginning. Let me tell you how we got here, and let me show you how life, in its quiet and mysterious way, becomes the greatest teacher we'll ever know. I grew up in a small town where everyone knew everyone. My mother was a school teacher. My father worked at the post office. We didn't have much, but we had enough. Enough love, enough food on the table, enough laughter in the evenings when we sat together after dinner. Life was simple back then. We didn't have fancy things. We didn't take vacations to faraway places. But we had each other. And that was everything. I married young. I was 22 years old. His name was Robert. He was kind, steady, and strong. He worked with his hands, building furniture, fixing things that were broken. He had this quiet strength about him. He didn't talk much, but when he did, his words mattered. We had one son. Just one. We named him Daniel. Daniel was everything to us, our whole world. From the moment he was born, I knew that my life had changed forever. I held him in my arms and I made a promise. I promised I would give him everything I could. I would protect him. I would guide him. I would love him with everything I had. And I did. We both did. Robert and I worked hard. We saved every penny we could. We lived in a small house with a little garden out back. I grew tomatoes and herbs. Robert built a swing for Daniel in the yard. We didn't have much, but we had love, and we had hope. We wanted Daniel to have a better life than we did. We wanted him to go to college. We wanted him to have opportunities we never had. So, we sacrificed. We went without new clothes. We drove old cars. We didn't eat out at restaurants. Everything we had, we put toward Daniel's future. And it worked. Daniel did well in school. He was smart, responsible, and respectful. He got a scholarship to college. He studied business. He worked hard. He graduated with honors. We were so proud of him, so incredibly proud. And then he met Clara. Pause. The music shifts slightly. A little more tension in the melody. Clara was beautiful. confident. She had this way of walking into a room and making everyone notice her. She was educated, well-spoken, and she came from a family with money, a lot of money. I remember the first time Daniel brought her home to meet us. I was so nervous. I cleaned the house 3 times. I baked a pie from scratch. I ironed the tablecloth. I wanted everything to be perfect. I wanted her to like us. She smiled when she walked in. She shook Robert's hand. She hugged me and told me the pie smelled wonderful. She was polite. She was charming. She seemed nice. But there was something in her eyes. Something I couldn't quite put my finger on. It wasn't coldness exactly. It was more like distance. Like she was looking at us from somewhere far away. Still, I pushed the feeling aside. I told myself I was being silly. I told myself I was just nervous because I wanted my son to be happy. They got married on a warm Saturday in June. It was a big wedding, fancy. There were flowers everywhere. The bridesmaids wore expensive dresses. The cake had 5 layers. There was a live band and a photographer who followed them around all day. I wore a dress I bought on sale. Robert wore his only suit. We sat in the front row and we watched our son say his vows. I cried. Not because I was sad, but because I was letting go of the little boy I'd raised and watching him become a man with his own family. Clara's family was there too. Her parents, her brothers, her aunts and uncles, they all looked so elegant, so polished. I felt small sitting next to them, but I smiled. I congratulated them. I hugged my son, and I told him I was proud of him. And I was. For the first year, everything seemed fine. Daniel and Clara bought a house. A big, beautiful house with a large yard and a 2-car garage. It was nothing like the little house Robert and I had raised Daniel in. It was modern, spacious, and expensive. We visited them once a month. I would bring food, homemade lasagna, roast chicken, apple pie. Clara would thank me politely and put the food in the fridge. She never ate much of it. I noticed that, but I didn't say anything. Robert passed away 2 years after they got married. It was sudden, a heart attack. He was working in the garage, fixing an old chair, and he just collapsed. By the time I found him, it was too late. I lost my husband, my partner, my best friend, the man I'd spent 45 years of my life with. I was lost, completely and utterly lost. Daniel was wonderful during that time. He helped me with the funeral arrangements. He held me when I cried. He told me I wasn't alone. He told me he would take care of me. And 6 months after Robert died, Daniel and Clara invited me to come live with them. "You shouldn't be alone, Mom," Daniel said. "We have plenty of space. You can have the guest room. It'll be good for all of us." I hesitated. I didn't want to be a burden. But the house felt so empty without Robert. The silence was unbearable. So I said yes. I packed my things. I sold the little house Robert and I had shared, and I moved into my son's home. At first, it was okay. I stayed out of the way. I kept to my room most of the time. I helped out where I could. I cooked dinner sometimes. I did the laundry. I watched his son, my grandson, when they needed me to. His name was Oliver. He was 3 years old. He had Daniel's eyes and Clara's smile. He was sweet and curious and full of energy. I loved him so much. Being with him helped ease the pain of losing Robert. But slowly, I started to notice things. Small things at first. Clara would come home from work and sigh when she saw me in the kitchen. She would ask Daniel why I was always there. She would make comments about how she couldn't relax in her own home. I tried to give them space. I started staying in my room more. I stopped cooking as often. I tried to be invisible. But it wasn't enough. One evening, about 6 months after I moved in, I was playing with Oliver in the living room. We were building a tower with blocks. He was laughing. I was smiling. For a moment, I felt happy. Clara walked in. She looked at us and her face changed. It wasn't anger. It was something else. Something colder. "Oliver, come here," she said. Oliver looked up at her and then back at me. "But Grandma and I are playing," he said. "Now," Clara said. Her voice was firm. Oliver's little face fell. He got up and walked over to his mother. She took his hand and led him out of the room without another word. I sat there, on the floor, surrounded by blocks, feeling like I'd done something wrong, but I didn't know what. That was when I started to realize I wasn't welcome here. Not really. I was tolerated, but I wasn't wanted. The tension grew slowly, like a plant you don't notice until it's grown so big it's blocking the sunlight. Clara stopped talking to me unless she had to. When I said good morning, she would nod and walk away. When I asked if she needed help with anything, she would say no. When I tried to make conversation, she would give short answers and leave the room. I didn't understand what I'd done wrong. I asked Daniel once, carefully, if everything was okay. "Everything's fine, Mom," he said, but he didn't look at me when he said it. I started spending more time in my room. I would read books, I would knit, I would look out the window and think about Robert. I missed him so much. I wished he were there to tell me what to do. One afternoon, I heard Clara and Daniel talking in their bedroom. The door was closed, but their voices carried through the walls. "She's always here," Clara said. "I can't breathe in my own house." "She's my mother," Daniel said, quietly. "I know that, but we need our space. We need our privacy. I feel like I'm being watched all the time." "She's not watching you. She's just here." "Exactly. She's always here. In the kitchen, in the living room, playing with Oliver. I feel like a guest in my own home." There was a long silence. Then Daniel said, "What do you want me to do?" Clara didn't answer right away. When she finally spoke, her voice was softer but firm. "I think it's time for her to go." My heart stopped. I stood there in the hallway frozen, unable to move. "Go where?" Daniel asked. "I don't know. A senior home, an apartment, somewhere, anywhere but here." "She's my mother, Clara." "And I'm your wife." Another silence, a longer one, and then Daniel said, "I'll think about it." I went back to my room. I closed the door quietly. I sat on the edge of my bed and I stared at the wall. I didn't cry. I just sat there, numb. I realized then that my son hadn't defended me. He hadn't said, "No, she stays." He hadn't said she's family. He just said, I'll think about it. And that hurt more than anything Clara had said. The days after that were heavy. I felt the weight of being unwanted pressing down on me every moment. I started eating my meals in my room. I stopped coming out unless I had to. I became a ghost in that house. Oliver would knock on my door sometimes. Grandma, can we play? And I would open the door and smile at him, even though my heart was breaking. Not today, sweetheart. Grandma's a little tired. But I miss you, he would say, and I would hug him and tell him I missed him too. One evening, Clara took Oliver to her parents' house for the weekend. It was just Daniel and me in the house. I thought maybe this was my chance. Maybe I could talk to him. Maybe I could ask him what I'd done wrong. Maybe I could fix this. I found him in the living room watching television. I sat down on the couch next to him. Daniel, I said softly, can we talk? He glanced at me and then back at the TV. Sure, Mom. Am I doing something wrong? He frowned. What do you mean? I feel like Clara isn't happy with me. I feel like I'm in the way. If I've done something to upset her, I want to know. I want to fix it. Daniel was quiet for a long time. Then he sighed. You haven't done anything wrong, Mom. Then why does she want me to leave? He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes that broke my heart. Guilt, sadness, helplessness. It's not about you, he said. It's just hard. For her. She's not used to having other people in the house. She likes her space. I've tried to stay out of the way, I said. I really have. I know. Then what do you want me to do, Daniel? He didn't answer. He just looked back at the television. And in that silence, I heard everything I needed to hear. He wasn't going to fight for me. He wasn't going to stand up to his wife. He was going to choose her. And I couldn't blame him for that. She was his wife, his future, his life. But it still hurt. Okay, I said quietly. I understand. I got up from the couch. I went back to my room, and I started packing my things. I didn't tell Daniel I was leaving. I didn't make a big announcement. I just quietly, calmly packed my clothes, my books, my few belongings into 2 suitcases. The next morning, I called a friend from my old neighborhood. Her name was Ruth. I asked her if I could stay with her for a little while until I figured things out. She said yes without hesitation. That evening, Clara came home. She was in a good mood. She was smiling. She didn't even look at me. I waited until after dinner. Oliver was in bed. Daniel and Clara were sitting in the living room. I walked in with my suitcases. Clara looked up. Her eyes went to the suitcases, then to me. I'm leaving, I said. My voice was calm, steady. Daniel stood up. Mom, what do you... It's okay, I said. I understand. This is your home, your family. I don't want to be in the way anymore. Clara didn't say anything. She just looked at me. And for a moment, I thought I saw something in her face. Relief. Maybe even satisfaction. You don't have to go, Daniel said. But his voice was weak, like he was saying it because he had to, not because he meant it. Yes, I do, I said. I looked at him. My son. My only child. The boy I'd raised. The man I'd sacrificed everything for. Take care of yourself, Daniel. Take care of your family. I walked to the door. I opened it. I picked up my suitcases, and I walked out. Daniel followed me to the driveway. Mom, wait, let's talk about this. There's nothing to talk about, I said. I put my suitcases in the trunk of my car. You have a good life, Daniel. I'm happy for you. I really am. Where are you going to go? I have a place, I said. I hugged him. He hugged me back. I love you. I love you too, Mom. I got in my car. I started the engine, and I drove away. I didn't look back. I couldn't. Because if I had, I would have seen my son standing in the driveway, watching me leave, and I would have broken down completely. I moved in with Ruth. She had a small apartment with a spare bedroom. She welcomed me with open arms. She made me tea. She let me cry. She didn't ask too many questions. She just let me be. For the first few weeks, I was numb. I went through the motions. I woke up. I ate. I slept. But I didn't really feel anything. It was like I was watching my life from the outside, like it was happening to someone else. I missed Oliver. I missed his laugh, his little hands, his questions. I wondered if he asked about me. I wondered if he missed me too. Daniel called me once a week. The conversations were short, polite, surface level. How are you, Mom? I'm fine. How are you? We're good. Busy. Oliver asks about you sometimes. Tell him I miss him. I will. And that was it. We didn't talk about what happened. We didn't talk about Clara. We didn't talk about the fact that I was living in someone else's apartment because I wasn't welcome in my own son's home. I tried to move on. I looked for a small apartment I could afford. I started volunteering at a local community center. I kept myself busy. I told myself this was better. I told myself I was fine. But I wasn't fine. I was heartbroken. I felt abandoned. I felt like I'd given my whole life to my son, and in the end, it hadn't mattered. 3 months passed, then 4, then 5. Daniel's calls became less frequent, once every 2 weeks, then once a month. I told myself it was normal. He was busy. He had his own life. But it hurt. One evening, Ruth and I were sitting in her living room, watching the news. My phone rang. It was Daniel. I answered. Hi, sweetheart, I said. Hi, Mom. His voice sounded strained, tired. Is everything okay? Yeah, everything is fine. I wanted to let you know that Clara's pregnant. My heart stopped. Then it swelled. Oh, Daniel, that's wonderful. Congratulations. Thanks. We're excited. Oliver's going to be a big brother. That's beautiful, I said. I meant it. Even though it hurt to know I wouldn't be there. Even though I knew I probably wouldn't be invited to be part of this new chapter in their lives. I thought you should know, he said. Thank you for telling me. There was a pause. Then he said, I have to go. Clara needs me. Of course. Take care of yourself. You too, Mom. He hung up. I sat there, holding the phone. Ruth looked at me. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. "He's having another baby." "That's good news," Ruth said gently. "It is," I said, but my voice cracked, and then the tears came. All the tears I'd been holding back for months. I cried for the life I'd lost, for the son who'd chosen his wife over me, for the grandchildren I wouldn't get to watch grow up. Ruth held me. She didn't say anything. She just held me, and I let myself break. The months continued to pass. 6 months, 7, 8. I heard from Daniel less and less. A text here and there, a short call on my birthday. That was it. I tried to accept it. I tried to let go. I told myself that this was just how life was sometimes. People moved on. People grew apart. It didn't mean he didn't love me. It just meant he had his own life now. But late at night, when I was alone in that little bedroom in Ruth's apartment, I couldn't help but wonder. I wondered if Clara ever thought about me. I wondered if she felt guilty. I wondered if Daniel ever missed me. And I wondered if I'd ever see my grandson again. Then, one night, the phone rang. It was 3 in the morning. I was asleep. The sound jolted me awake. My heart was pounding. No one calls at 3 in the morning unless something is wrong. I fumbled for my phone in the dark. I looked at the screen. It was Clara. Clara. Not Daniel. Clara. My hands were shaking as I answered. "Hello?" There was a pause, and then I heard it. Crying, sobbing, the kind of crying that comes from deep, deep pain. "Margaret?" Her voice was broken, barely recognizable. "Clara, what's wrong? Is Daniel okay? Is Oliver okay?" "Please," she sobbed, "please come back. I need you. I was wrong. I was so wrong." I sat up in bed. My heart was racing. "What happened?" "The baby," she cried. "There were complications. I I almost lost her. And Daniel, he's been working so much. He's exhausted. And Oliver keeps asking for you. He misses you. And I can't do this alone. I thought I could. I thought I didn't need anyone, but I was wrong. I need help. I need you." I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath. This was the moment. The moment I'd imagined 1,000 times. The moment where she would realize, where she would understand. But as I sat there listening to her cry, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt sad. "Clara," I said softly, "take a deep breath. Tell me what happened." She tried to steady herself. "I went into early labor. They had to do an emergency surgery. The baby, she's okay. She's in the NICU. But it was so scary, Margaret. I thought I was going to die. I thought I was going to lose her. And I realized I'd been so stupid, so selfish. I pushed you away. I made Daniel push you away. And now, when I need help the most, I have no one. My parents are out of the country. My friends are all busy with their own lives. And I'm here alone with a newborn in the hospital and a little boy who doesn't understand why his grandmother disappeared." I felt tears running down my face. Not tears of anger, not tears of bitterness, just tears of deep, deep sadness. "I'm so sorry," Clara whispered. "I'm so sorry. I was wrong about everything. I thought I didn't need you. I thought you were in the way. But you weren't. You were helping us. You were loving us. And I threw that away. I threw you away." "Clara, please," she begged. "Please forgive me. Please come back. I know I don't deserve it. I know I was cruel. But please, I need you. We need you." I sat there in the dark, holding the phone, listening to my daughter-in-law cry, and I thought about everything. Every hurtful word, every cold glance, every moment I felt unwanted in that house. But I also thought about Oliver, my sweet grandson who used to knock on my door and ask me to play. And I thought about the new baby, my granddaughter, fighting for her life in a hospital. And I thought about my son, exhausted and overwhelmed, trying to hold his family together. "Where's Daniel?" I asked quietly. "At the hospital, with the baby. He doesn't know I'm calling you. I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to hear your voice. I needed to tell you I'm sorry." I took another deep breath. "Clara, listen to me. You're tired. You're scared. You've just been through something traumatic. You don't have to—" "I mean it," she interrupted. "Every word. I was wrong. I was so wrong. And I will spend the rest of my life trying to make it up to you if you'll just give me another chance." I thought about what to say. I thought about what I wanted. And I realized I didn't want revenge. I didn't want her to suffer. I just wanted my family back. "Okay," I said softly. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll come." She sobbed again, but this time it was different. It was relief. "Thank you. Thank you so much." "But Clara," I said, "things have to be different. You have to talk to me. If something's bothering you, you have to tell me. We have to communicate. I can't go back to feeling like I'm not welcome in your home." "I promise," she said. "I promise things will be different. I swear." "All right, I'll pack my things. I'll be there in the morning." "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much, Margaret." We hung up, and I sat there in the dark for a long time. Ruth's apartment was quiet. The world outside was quiet. And I just sat there, thinking. Life had taught Clara a lesson. But it wasn't the lesson I would have chosen. It wasn't about punishment or revenge. It was about humility. About realizing that we all need each other. That pride and independence can only take us so far. That sometimes the people we push away are the very people we need the most. I arrived at their house the next morning. Clara opened the door. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying. Her hair was messy. She looked exhausted. When she saw me, she started crying again. "I'm so sorry," she said. I dropped my suitcases. I walked up to her, and I hugged her. She clung to me like a child. She sobbed into my shoulder, and I held her. Because that's what you do. That's what family does. "It's okay," I said softly. "It's going to be okay." We went to the hospital together. Daniel was there, sitting in a chair next to the incubator, staring at his tiny daughter through the glass. He looked up when he saw me, his face crumpled. "Mom," he said. He stood up and walked over to me. He hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Shh," I said. "It's all right. I'm here now." We stood there for a while, the three of us in that quiet hospital room, looking at the tiny baby fighting for her life. She was so small, so fragile, her little chest rising and falling with each breath. She had Daniel's nose, Clara's chin. She was perfect. "What's her name?" I asked. Clara wiped her eyes. "We haven't decided yet. We wanted to wait until she was stronger." I looked at her through the glass. "She's going to be fine," I said. "She's a fighter. I can tell." And she was. Over the next few weeks, she grew stronger, she gained weight, her lungs developed, and finally, after 3 weeks in the NICU, they brought her home. Her name was Grace. Grace Margaret. When Clara told me, I cried. I couldn't help it. It was the most beautiful gift anyone had ever given me. We want her to have your strength, your kindness, your grace. I moved back into the house, but this time it was different. Clara was different. She talked to me. She asked for my help. She thanked me. She listened. We cooked together. We took care of Grace together. We played with Oliver together. We became a family, a real family. One evening, a few months after Grace came home, Clara and I were sitting on the couch. The kids were asleep. Daniel was at work. It was quiet. Clara looked at me. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course," I said. "I was jealous of you," she said quietly. I looked at her, surprised. "Jealous? Of me?" She nodded. "When you first moved in, I saw how much Oliver loved you. I saw how much Daniel relied on you, and I felt replaced. I felt like I wasn't enough, like I couldn't be the mother or the wife I was supposed to be because you were already doing everything." "Clara, let me finish," she said gently. "I know now that I was wrong. You weren't trying to replace me. You were just being you. You were just loving us the way you know how. And instead of being grateful, I pushed you away. I made you feel unwanted. And I'm ashamed of that. I'm so ashamed." I reached over and took her hand. "Thank you for telling me that." "I want to be better," she said. "I want to learn from you. I want Grace and Oliver to grow up knowing their grandmother. I want them to have what Daniel had, a mother who loves them unconditionally. And I want that for you too. I want you to feel loved, to feel wanted." "I do. I do now." She smiled, a real, genuine smile. And for the first time since I'd met her, I felt like I was seeing the real Clara. Not the polished, confident woman who kept everyone at arm's length, but the scared, vulnerable, human woman underneath. We sat there for a while, holding hands, not saying anything, just being. Life had taught her a lesson, but it had taught me one too. It taught me that people can change, that healing is possible, that forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing love over bitterness. It's been 2 years since that phone call. 2 years since Clara called me in the middle of the night, broken and desperate, asking me to come back. And I did. I came back. Not because I wanted to prove a point, not because I wanted her to grovel, but because that's what love does. Love forgives. Love gives second chances. Love shows up, even when it's hard. Things aren't perfect. We still have our moments. We still disagree sometimes. But now we talk, we communicate, we work through things together. Clara has become like a daughter to me. Not just my daughter-in-law, but truly a daughter. She asks me for advice. She tells me about her struggles. She lets me in. Daniel is more present now. He learned something through all of this too. He learned that silence isn't peace, that keeping quiet to avoid conflict only creates bigger problems. He learned to speak up, to stand up for what's right, to balance being a husband and a son. Oliver is 7 now. He's smart and funny and kind. He tells everyone about his grandma. He draws me pictures. He asks me to tell him stories about when his daddy was little. And Grace, sweet little Grace. She's 2 years old now. She follows me everywhere. She calls me Gamma. She reaches for me when she's tired. She curls up in my lap when we read books together. I look at them and I think about that night, the night Clara called me, the night life taught her the lesson she needed to learn. I don't think she'll ever forget it. I don't think any of us will. Because sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones that change us the most, the ones that break us open and show us who we really are, the ones that teach us humility, compassion, and gratitude. Clara learned that being independent doesn't mean doing everything alone, that asking for help isn't weakness, that family, even when it's messy and complicated, is worth fighting for. Daniel learned that love isn't just about keeping the peace. It's about standing up for the people who matter. It's about making hard choices and having difficult conversations. And me? I learned that forgiveness isn't just something you give to others. It's something you give to yourself. I learned that holding on to hurt only hurts you. That letting go doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're strong enough to choose healing over bitterness. I'm 74 now. I don't know how many years I have left, but I know this. I know that I'm surrounded by love. I know that my grandchildren will remember me. I know that I made a difference in their lives. And I know that when Clara called me that night, crying and broken and scared, she gave me a gift. She gave me the chance to be needed again, to be valued, to be loved. Life has a funny way of teaching us what we need to learn. Sometimes it's gentle, sometimes it's harsh, but it's always, always purposeful. If you're listening to this story and you're in a difficult place right now, I want you to know something. I want you to know that it's okay to walk away from situations that hurt you. It's okay to protect your peace. It's okay to set boundaries. But I also want you to know that it's okay to forgive. It's okay to give second chances. It's okay to let people back in even after they've hurt you. Because love isn't about being right. It's not about winning. It's not about keeping score. Love is about showing up. It's about choosing grace over grudges. It's about believing that people can change, that hearts can heal, that broken families can be put back together piece by piece with patience and forgiveness and time. Clara learned her lesson, but not because I punished her, not because I made her suffer, but because life, in its infinite wisdom, showed her what really matters. And in the end, we all learned something. We learned that we need each other, that pride will only take us so far, that the people we push away today might be the very people we desperately need tomorrow. So if there's someone in your life you've pushed away, someone you've hurt, someone you've taken for granted, reach out to them. Tell them you're sorry. Tell them you were wrong. Give them the chance to forgive you. because life is too short to live with regret. Life is too precious to waste on pride. My name is Margaret. I'm 74 years old, and this is the story of how my daughter-in-law learned the hardest lesson of her life, and how in the process, we all learned what it truly means to be a... People ask me sometimes if I ever think about those 8 months. Those 8 months when I was away, when I was living in Ruth's spare bedroom, wondering if I'd ever see my grandchildren again, wondering if my son still loved me, wondering if I'd made a mistake by leaving so quietly. And I tell them yes. Yes, I think about it, but not with bitterness, not with anger. I think about it with gratitude, because those 8 months taught me something too. They taught me that I could survive on my own, that I was stronger than I thought, that my worth wasn't defined by whether or not someone wanted me in their home. I learned to stand on my own 2 feet again. I learned to find joy in small things: a cup of tea with Ruth, a walk in the park, a good book, a phone call from an old friend. I learned that I was more than just someone's mother, more than just someone's grandmother. I was Margaret, a woman with her own life, her own thoughts, her own value. And when Clara called me that night, I didn't go back because I had nowhere else to go. I went back because I chose to, because I wanted to, because I believed in second chances, and because I loved my family enough to try again. That's important. That distinction. I didn't go back out of desperation. I went back out of love. And that made all the difference. Last week, we had a family dinner. All of us together. Daniel, Clara, Oliver, Grace, and me. We sat around the table, passing dishes, talking about our day, laughing at Oliver's jokes. At one point, Grace reached over and grabbed my hand. She looked up at me with those big brown eyes and said, "Gemma, I love you." My heart melted. I squeezed her little hand and said, "I love you too, sweetheart."
Clara was watching us. She had this soft expression on her face. When our eyes met, she mouthed 2 words to me. "Thank you." I nodded. I didn't need to say anything. She knew. I knew. We both knew. After dinner, Daniel and I washed the dishes together. Clara was putting the kids to bed. It was just the 2 of us in the kitchen, working side by side in comfortable silence. "Mom," Daniel said suddenly. "Yes, sweetheart?" "I'm sorry," he said. "I know I've said it before, but I need to say it again. I'm sorry for not standing up for you. I'm sorry for letting Clara push you out. I'm sorry for choosing the easy path instead of the right one." I dried my hands on a towel and turned to look at him. My son. My grown son with gray hairs starting to show at his temples. He looked so much like his father in that moment. "Daniel," I said gently, "you were in an impossible position. I understand that. You were trying to keep your wife happy. You were trying to keep the peace in your home. I don't blame you for that." "But I should have done better," he said. "Dad would have done better." I smiled sadly. "Your father would have been just as confused as you were. Marriage is complicated. Family is complicated. There's no instruction manual. We all just do the best we can." "You deserved better," he said. "Maybe," I said. "But what matters is what we have now. What matters is that we learned from it, all of us." He hugged me then. A long,
tight hug. "I love you, Mom. I hope you know that." "I do. I've always known that." And I had, even in my darkest moments, even when I felt abandoned and unwanted, I knew my son loved me. Love isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's confused. Sometimes it makes mistakes. But it's still love. I think about Robert a lot these days. I wonder what he would think about all of this. I think he'd be proud. Proud of Daniel for growing. Proud of Clara for having the courage to admit she was wrong. Proud of me for having the strength to forgive. Robert always believed in second chances. He believed in redemption. He believed that people were capable of change if given the right circumstances. He was right. I talk to him sometimes in my quiet moments. I sit in my room or in the garden and I talk to him like he's still here. I tell him about the kids. I tell him about Clara. I tell him how much I miss him. And sometimes, when the wind blows just right, or when the sun hits the trees in a certain way, I feel like he's listening. I feel like he's smiling. I feel like he's telling me, "You did good, Margaret. You did real good." Grace started preschool this year. On her first day, she was so nervous. She held my hand tight and looked up at me with tears in her eyes. "Gamma, what if the kids don't like me?" she asked. I knelt down to her level. I tucked a strand of hair behind her ear and I said, "They're going to love you, sweetheart. Just be yourself. Be kind, be brave, and remember, Gamma loves you more than all the stars in the sky." She smiled, she hugged me, and then she let go of my hand and walked into that classroom with her head held high. Clara was standing next to me watching. She wiped a tear from her eye. "She gets that from you," Clara said. "Gets what?" I asked. "That strength, that grace, that ability to face scary things with courage." I looked at Clara. "You gets it from you too. You're stronger than you think you are, Clara." She smiled. "I'm trying to be." "You're doing more than trying," I said. "You're succeeding." We stood there, side by side, watching Grace through the classroom window. Two women, two mothers, two generations, connected by love and by the lessons life had taught us both. You know, there's something I want to say to anyone out there who's been hurt by family, anyone who's been pushed away, anyone who's felt unwanted or unloved or forgotten. Your pain is real. Your hurt is valid. And you don't owe anyone your forgiveness if you're not ready to give it. But I also want to tell you this. Holding on to hurt is like carrying a heavy stone. At first, you don't notice the weight, but over time, it gets heavier and heavier. It weighs you down. It makes every step harder. It keeps you from moving forward. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is put that stone down. Not because the person who hurt you deserves it, but because you deserve peace. You deserve freedom. You deserve to live a life that isn't defined by pain. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending it never happened. It doesn't mean letting someone hurt you again. It just means choosing to release the hold that pain has on your heart. It means saying, what you did hurt me, but I'm not going to let it destroy me. I'm going to heal. I'm going to move forward. And I'm going to choose love over bitterness. That's what I did. And it changed everything. Clara and I were talking the other day. We were folding laundry together, something we do every Sunday afternoon while the kids play outside and Daniel works in the garden. She said to me, Margaret, do you ever regret coming back? I looked at her, surprised. No, never. Why would you ask that? She hesitated. Because I know I hurt you. I know I made you feel unwanted. And sometimes I worry that you only came back because you felt obligated, not because you actually wanted to. I put down the shirt I was folding. I turned to face her fully. Clara, I said, I came back because I chose to. Not because I had to, not because I felt guilty, but because I believed that this family was worth fighting for. I believed that you were worth giving a second chance. And I was right. Her eyes filled with tears. I don't deserve you. Stop that, I said firmly, but gently. You do deserve kindness. You do deserve grace. We all make mistakes, Clara. What matters is what we do after. And you've done everything right. You've apologized. You've changed. You've opened your heart. That takes courage. She hugged me then, right there in the laundry room, surrounded by baskets of clothes, and she whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on me." "Thank you for not giving up on yourself," I whispered back. Oliver came to me last night. He's getting so tall now. He'll be 8 soon. He knocked on my bedroom door just as I was getting ready for bed. "Grandma," he said softly. "Come in, sweetheart." He walked in and sat on the edge of my bed. He had that serious look on his face that he gets when he's thinking about something important. "Can I ask you a question?" he asked. "Of course, anything." "Why did you go away that time, when I was little?" My heart stopped. We'd never talked about this, not directly. I didn't think he remembered. "You remember that?" I asked gently. He nodded. "Not everything, but I remember being sad. I remember asking Mom where you were, and she would get quiet. I remember Dad being sad too." I took a deep breath. Sometimes, sweetheart, grown-ups make mistakes, and sometimes people need time apart to figure things out. "But you came back," he said. I did. "Why?" "Because I love you," I said simply. "I love you and your sister and your mom and your dad. And sometimes love means giving people second chances. It means forgiving mistakes. It means choosing to be together, even when it's hard." He thought about that for a moment. Then he said, "I'm glad you came back." "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." He hugged me goodnight, and as I watched him walk back to his room, I realized something. The lesson wasn't just for Clara. It wasn't just for Daniel. It wasn't just for me. It was for all of us, including the children. They were watching. They were learning. They were seeing what forgiveness looks like, what grace looks like, what family looks like, even when it's messy and imperfect and broken. And that's the greatest gift we can give them. Not perfection, but resilience, the ability to break and heal, to hurt and forgive, to fall and rise again. So here I am, 74 years old, living in my son's house, playing with my grandchildren, cooking Sunday dinners, folding laundry with my daughter-in-law who once told me to leave. And I'm happy. Truly, deeply happy. Not because everything is perfect, but because it's real, because it's honest, because it's built on a foundation of forgiveness and second chances and love that refused to give up. Life taught Clara a lesson that night when she called me crying, desperate, broken. It taught her that pride comes before a fall, that independence without community is isolation, that the people we take for granted are often the people we need most. But life taught me a lesson too. It taught me that I'm stronger than I thought, that my worth isn't dependent on whether someone wants me, that I can stand on my own even when it hurts. And most importantly, it taught me that forgiveness isn't weakness. It's the ultimate strength. When you forgive someone, you're not saying what they did was okay. You're saying that you're not going to let what they did control your life anymore. You're taking your power back. You're choosing freedom over bondage. You're choosing peace over pain. And that, my friends, is the greatest victory of all. If you're listening to this and you're hurting right now, if you've been pushed away by someone you love, if you feel unwanted or forgotten or abandoned, I want you to know something. You are enough, just as you are right now. You don't need someone else's validation to prove your worth. You don't need someone else's approval to know you matter. And if someone has hurt you, you have every right to protect yourself. You have every right to walk away. You have every right to say, this isn't okay. But when the time is right, if the time is right, consider forgiveness. Not for them, but for you. Because forgiveness sets you free. It opens up space in your heart for joy again. It allows you to move forward instead of staying stuck in the past. And who knows? Maybe, like Clara, the person who hurt you will realize their mistake. Maybe they'll grow. Maybe they'll change. Maybe you'll get your second chance. Or maybe they won't. Maybe they'll never apologize. Maybe they'll never see what they did wrong. And that's okay too, because forgiveness doesn't require their participation. It only requires yours. You can forgive someone and still maintain boundaries. You can forgive someone and still protect your peace. You can forgive someone and still choose not to have them in your life. Forgiveness is for you, not for them. Remember that. My name is Margaret. I'm 74 years old. I've loved deeply. I've lost greatly. I've been hurt and I've healed. I've forgiven and I've been forgiven. And I'm here to tell you that life, in all its pain and beauty, is worth it. Every moment, every tear, every heartbreak, every joy. Because it's all part of the journey. It's all part of becoming who we're meant to be. Clara learned her lesson, but not through punishment, through life, through experience, through the natural consequences of her choices. And in the end, we all learned something. We learned that love is stronger than pride, that family is worth fighting for, that forgiveness is possible, that people can change, and that sometimes the greatest lessons come not from words, but from silence, from patience, from grace. So if you're struggling right now, hold on. If you're hurting, be gentle with yourself. If you're lost, trust that you'll find your way. And remember, life is always teaching us, always guiding us, always giving us exactly what we need, even when it doesn't feel like it. Trust the journey. Trust the process. Trust that everything, every single thing, is happening for a reason. And when the phone rings at 3 in the morning, when the person who hurt you is on the other end crying and broken and asking for forgiveness, take a deep breath. Feel your feelings. And then, when you're ready, choose. Choose wisely. Choose with your whole heart. Choose what's best for you. But whatever you choose, choose love. Choose grace. Choose peace. Because in the end, that's all that really matters. And in the end, we all learned something. We learned that love is stronger than pride, that family is worth fighting for, that forgiveness is possible, that people can change, and that sometimes the greatest lessons come not from words, but from silence, from patience, from grace. So if you're struggling right now, hold on. If you're hurting, be gentle with yourself. If you're lost, trust that you'll find your way. And remember, life is always teaching us, always guiding us, always giving us exactly what we need, even when it doesn't feel like it. Trust the journey. Trust the process. Trust that everything, every single thing, is happening for a reason. And when the phone rings at 3 in the morning, when the person who hurt you is on the other end crying and broken and asking for forgiveness, take a deep breath. Feel your feelings. And then, when you're ready, choose. Choose wisely. Choose with your whole heart. Choose what's best for you. But whatever you choose, choose love. Choose grace. Choose peace. Because in the end, that's all that really matters.